Welcome to the Feria Tech Cast. We'll bring you all things science, engineering, technology, and innovation. Today we are joined by Magdaline Coleman, visionary leader who is modernizing a legacy printing business from remote Darwin, Australia. She operates in the male-dominated world of manufacturing and print, blending high-tech Industry 4.0 solutions with a bold, creative energy. She is a trailblazer for women in business, a community advocate, and an expert in evolving a traditional brand for the future. In this episode, we'll explore leading from the Outback, balancing tradition with tech, and building a remarkable business with heart. So, Madeline, or should I say Mags?
Ah, yes, many people call me Mags, that's right. Yes, it's a lot easier
Oh,
to say.
okay, Mags, welcome to the show.
Thank you so much. I guess, when I was invited on this podcast, I was thinking, "Oh my goodness, I am located in Darwin in the Northern Territory of Australia, quite a remote location, but sure, we have some of the best engineering and technology and the most opportunity that looks, not just, from the top of Australia, wide, but also up into the APJ region." And I guess the core idea about printing is that print is not just ink on paper. In terms of how it refers to what you guys do, it's applied engineering. Modern printing is a
Hmm.
convergence. Do you agree of mechanical engineering, material science, color physics, software automation, and data analytics? And really, that's the core of any sustainable and progressive and innovative business, whether it be in engineering or build and construct, robotics, automation, AI, dare I say it. When you talk about print, you're really talking about how hardware, chemistry, code, software, and how all of those things that I guess are quite creative, how they all meet to create something physical, repeatable and reliable, and also quite tangible. So I guess there are some similarities in kind of what we do, in terms of engineering precision and what you guys are required to do in print. Commercial printing, which is basically offset printing, which is machinery that is at least 10 to 12 to 15 to 20 or up to 50 meters long. These pieces of mechanical engineering equipment, the commercial printing presses, they require a micrometer level of tolerances. They rely on color calibration. We are required to process color control. That would be similar or familiar to anyone working in aerospace or robotics or the creative industries, anyone that works for, any of the major brands globally, like, Minolta or HP or Heidelberg or Lambda, even though they've gone under. So there's um, all of these matters of precision and color and planning that are required in the printing process. So we all start with, you know, someone walks into our office with a big idea, just like they would, if they were coming into an Engineers Australia or an engineering practice around the world. And they say, "Hey, I've got an idea. I'd really like to create this." And it might be something on a micro scale. It might be, "Hey, I just need some capability statements because I want to push my work out, into the Defence Forces of Australia, but I really need a capability statement and it needs to say everything about my company." Well, what our job is at Coleman's is to prepare everything from the words and the pictures on the page to the materials information, the digital transformation, consider circular economy issues, and then the human connection. And finally, give them, a 12-page or a 16-page capability statement. So something that sounds really simple, which is, "Hey, I'm a customer. I need a capability statement to send a printed capability statement to hand out at a conference to get more work for my business, we need to take all of these things into consideration. We need to use our engineering precision. We need to use our materials innovation. I mean, sustainability is on the tip of everyone's tongue, no matter what industry we work in. So we're considering what substrates or papers to use, what conductive inks should we use, what wrapping material should we use to package the documentation when we deliver it to our customers. How can we push the boundaries of recycling, the offcuts that we use when we actually cut the materials down into smaller, more handleable items. And then after we actually print something physical, just like almost everybody in the world, customers or people or, users and stakeholders, they all are requesting a piece of digital transformation, which basically means make my hard copy document digital. And how are we going to do that? We need to ensure that it's, in the right format. So we can put it on your website, or we can send it over a podcast as a link, or we can send it to, key stakeholders of key industries so that people can demonstrate their capabilities, their workflows, their advanced technology that they're using. And of course, the thing that is on the tip of everybody's tongue at the moment is predictive analysis and AI. And in any industry, this is the example of real. Is it Industry 4.0? Is it Industry 5.0? Or is it just the AI revolution? Well, I think rather than referring to all of these precisions and innovations and transformations as real examples of Industry 4.0 or Industry 5.0, perhaps they're just all contributing to what we are now calling the AI revolution, or AI in action, or agentic AI. This is probably the topic on everyone's tongues for 2025 and possibly beyond. It's about how all of this precision, innovation, transformation, circular economy, and human connection all relate together to make our jobs and our lives and our projects easier, easier on the human. What makes,
Yeah.
yeah, there's one thing to talk about the circular economy, for example. Print manufacturing has moved from high waste offset to carbon neutral over the years. I wouldn't say that everybody is at fully 100% carbon neutral, but people are making really good decisions about what type of substrates we're choosing to use, what type of machinery we're purchasing, where the engineering of the machinery comes from, and how that is made in the circular economy, so that we can apply that that knowledge to good environmental outcomes in the future. And what I mean by
Mm.
that is, the size of paper sheets that we purchase, pretty much we print in pretty standard sizes, right? Like business cards are a certain size in Australia, pretty standard size. Sure, some people decide not to do a rectangle, they might do a square or have curved edges or, something tricky. And sure, we have the capability and capacity to do all of that. But when you're talking about most printed materials for the general consumer, they come in A4 and A3 or A2 and A1 or AO sizes. So we think about the type of paper we buy, what size the paper is, how it will fit through our printing machines, and how we can either gang up or nest up the type of products that we need to minimize waste. Because waste just costs us all money and is also a detriment to the environment. So there's a win-win there. There's a win for the manufacturing companies that are planning um, their printing to be more efficient. And it's also a win for the environment because we're not wasting as much paper or substrate. Um,
Mm,
and then again, in terms of engineering, the amount of materials that are available to the end user is just amazing. I know that we use acoustic panels and they're used a lot in old buildings and new buildings, to make them soundproof or to make boardrooms a little more soundproof. We can print on these amazing acoustic panels, both we print Indigenous and non-Indigenous designs and pop them on walls in all sorts of boardrooms and environments and corporate environments throughout the North. And the reason we do that is because, sure, they're aesthetically pleasing, um, but it also, with all of the tech that we're talking about and all of the hard lines of engineering and construction and glass and metal, the result is tactile. And you actually want a little bit of print to bridge the divide between the digital um, and the physical atmosphere that we all work and live in this world. So if you have a really cool design that someone wants to print on an acoustic panel or a slogan or a logo or whatever, it might be your website or it could be our website or our corporate logo here at Coleman's. Well, the great thing about having that is that, the color and the logo and the font, it turns just these words, like the words Coleman's Printing or Coleman's, it turns this data into something that people can hold on to and share and trust. And then by adding some color, which in our case is teal, we like to use sort of a light blue color palette. It really does enhance that human connection between what we're doing, what we're selling, what we're preaching. And also, it demonstrates that, we've actually thought about the position and into innovation and transformation. Yeah, we're just thinking about how we look and how we make other people feel when they're dealing with our company. So, yeah.
okay, that was an interesting and insightful talk from you. So I like to ask a question. The printing and signage industry has been completely transformed by technology. So from your vantage point, Madeline, what has been the single most exciting tech innovation that has changed the game for what you can create for your clients?
Oh, the printing and signing industry is constantly developing. I mean, you're looking at all of the major global providers that provide modern equipment and presses. Um, I think accuracy, color, and speed are probably the three things that contribute to the real world impact. Because everyone knows the story of Coca-Cola, right? Coca-Cola red is a very specific color. It is known all
Yeah,
over the world, right?
yeah,
So,
yeah.
you know, everyone in the world wants to print Coca-Cola red. So and we don't, but hey, if Coca-Cola wants to come to Coleman's, we'd be happy to print for them. But if we need that color, that accuracy, and that speed to be able to do that globally. So all of the global brands and modern presses, whether it be a flatbed, a hybrid machine, an offset printer, a digital printer, a signage machine, they are all run with absolute 110%, 100% micron level registration. Basically, all of the equipment we have has, closed loop color sensors and motion control, very similar to robotics. And they're all backed up with software and data. Like every single machine or press we have has a RIP engine so that data can be transferred very quickly onto those presses. onto those digital presses or onto those signage machines, because that allows us to be accurate with our color. It allows us to have automated nesting or ganging or um, have variable data. So when we talk about all of these buzzwords, variable data is just a bit of a fancy term for mail merging, because in this world, personalization is what we're all craving for. We all require some type of personalized messaging, whether it be a letter that we'd be receiving or an email these days that always says, Dear Magdalene or Dear Ezekiel or Dear Tony. So every single person's name is mentioned. And then, of course, the name of your podcast will be mentioned. And then your social media channels will be mentioned. Everything will be very personalized. So, yeah, I guess it's all about accuracy, speed, and color. They're the probably 3 things that have contributed most, and of course, the software and data. And now with AI color proofing, and automation, that's definitely going to be the next big thing that hits our industry and makes some waves.
Okay, that was really insightful, Madeline. So you are well trained and bring a global perspective back to Darwin. Tell us, what's one thing you've seen a business in Europe or the US do that you thought, I'm bringing this idea home with me?
Yes, I've been very lucky to travel to the US, and also to New Zealand, and recently to Spain, Madrid, Barcelona, this year. So I've done a lot of international travel. I think one thing that stands out is that other providers in the global market who have very good management information systems and processes really do have a both a creative and also business edge on other companies. Anything or anyone that has very good processes, um, both in the front of house and also production processes, that that really resonates with me, that we really need to have the same level of, even though we're a much smaller company, we're like, a little Nemo fish in the great Australian Ocean. Um, that is probably the real world impact. Anyone that has really good processes, procedures, and systems in place, from the time somebody reaches out and says, "Hey, hello, Coleman's Printing. I'd like to order some printing," to the moment that goes through the entire production workflow, gets printed on one of our presses, and then gets delivered out the door. Um, yeah, fully integrated processes and procedures with MIS systems, color systems, workflows, and of course, delivery mechanisms as well.
Okay, Mad. I'd like to ask, what does a typical day look like for you working at a company, the one you manage? So tell us, is it about high-tech machinery or global clients or community chats or perhaps just watching for crocodiles?
Yeah. Well, it's actually quite funny. It is always summer in Darwin, in the Northern Territory. The temperature is always between 28 degrees and 40 degrees. So it really is always summer. We only have 2 seasons here. We have the wet season and the dry season, which is a little cooler. And in the wet season, it rains quite a lot. So I don't go crocodile hunting and fishing all of the time, contrary to popular belief, to people that live and come and visit in the Northern Territory. But what we do is, the sun rises early, so we're very lucky, and the sun sets very late in Darwin in the Northern Territory. So we have a really, really lovely work day where we can travel to work while the sun is still shining, and we can get home while it's nice and sunny and do some exercise or play football or soccer or basketball or go for a run, along. any of the coastlines in Darwin. But when I get to work, I pretty much look after the creative side and the sales side and the front side of our business. So it's really, really engaging. Straight after this interview, I will have some customers coming in. They're looking at producing a calendar for Christmas and distributing it throughout the Northern Territory. So that's a really interesting group of people that'll be coming in this morning, and we'll get to chat about everything from the creative process about what images and what content they want in that calendar, and then we'll be able to give them a take to market strategy on how that customer will be able to sell that calendar, and of course we'll produce and distribute that calendar all here at Coleman's in Darwin. And then, although Darwin's a very quiet place and there's not a lot of population, we do get a lot of very high-end thought leadership that visits. And today we also are very privileged to have the Australian Institute of Company Directors coming to Darwin, and they're an esteemed organisation in Australia, and they are actually doing a seminar on um, the environment, AI, and also governance principles for directors. So just that thought leadership that they're bringing to Darwin to the north, and bringing, a panelist, 3 panelists from interstate up to Darwin to the north to educate us and keep our knowledge flowing so that we can continue to do business and to think big. Even though Darwin's a really small place, it shouldn't stop the way you think and the way you work. We're still expected to deliver, really high quality um, products, and also, do it well.
Right, Madeline. So for the young professionals, especially women in our audience who are
Mhm.
looking to lead in the technical or industrial field, what's your best piece of advice for finding their voice and commanding respect without losing themselves in the process?
Yeah, that's a really, really good question. I've always taken an approach, to be perfectly honest, I've had to work a lot harder and prepare myself a lot more than perhaps some of my male counterparts would have had to do so to present and to become a CEO, or to become a board member, or to gain that respect. So I think it's about what you're willing to put into yourself as an individual. I think if any person in this world, male or female, is prepared to invest in themselves, in their learning, to continuously educate themselves, and keep up to date with local and international trends, then, and also just be interested in things you're interested in. Be curious, ask questions. That, the old saying, there's no such thing as a bad question or a dumb question. There really isn't in this world that we live in. There are so many opportunities to ask questions and to learn new things on a daily basis. I would just really encourage females and males to be curious, and to follow their passion and to do something that they actually like doing. Yeah, that would be my main advice. Yeah, be curious about
Well,
things you're really interested in, you're genuinely interested in. Yeah.
fantastic, Max. That was a great piece of advice. So looking at the future, what's a trend in manufacturing, tech, or design that you are most excited about that most people aren't really paying too much attention to yet?
I think anything that involves STEM or STEAM or creativity plus manufacturing is what is going to lead the future of print or signage or tech manufacturing. And what I mean by that is, no longer are we just happy to stick a piece of metal on a wall and for it to be, one standard color. No longer are we willing to just put an acoustic panel at the back to do some noise cancelling. No longer are we willing to just hand out the business card that just says our name on it. What we want is something spectacular. And so by using some, STEM, which is in Australia known as science, technology, engineering, and maths, and adding the A to make the word STEAM, which is science, technology, engineering, the arts, and math, we'll add that to any type of discipline, and you are going to have a really good or big idea. And that is certainly how it rolls in the printing industry. Add some creativity to some, you know, really good products, add some color, add some flair, add some big ideas, and your printing material will get attention, and it will get your brand known, and it will make you look good and be successful in the future.
So, if you could go back in time to give one piece of advice to the Madeline who was just starting to step into leadership, tell us, what would it be?
Oh, that's a really hard question, Mal. That's a very good question. I think perhaps I would have listened a little bit more. And I've done quite a lot of higher education, if you want. That's what we call it in Australia. So I have completed a range of courses after I sort of got married, and just this year I've completed an AI course at Bond University. So I would probably encourage more learning in my youth. So, really, when you have the time to do some professional development and some learning right before you're a female that possibly gets married, possibly has children, possibly, buys or invests in a big role, buys or invests your time in a big role. Maybe just take the time for yourself to really invest in yourself and your own education and really upskilling yourself, because once you have that certificate or that knowledge, no one can ever take that away from you. And it goes under your name, and you can have some either certificates on the wall, or you can just have them in your backpack, and you can know that you have that knowledge. And like I say, no one can ever take that away from you. So yeah, that would be a good piece of advice, to just continue to go out there and learn and grow and get some academic qualifications or certificates.
Wonderful. That that's indeed a great piece of advice. Yeah. So, tell us, what does the word innovation truly mean to you, and how does it relate to your work, your field, generally your life? I just like to hear the meaning of the word from the way you see it, from your opinion.
Wow. These are hard questions. Gee, I was definitely not prepared for these. Um, Look, I think innovation can be anything new in this world. I think, like, I could go into the definition of it, of, digital and materials and chemistry and sustainability and blah, blah, blah. But the truth is, it's just about, something cool, something different, how man and machine work together, and how we can constantly improve on what we currently do in a new or innovative way. Just do something cool. So sometimes we just need to speak plain English. There's all of this crossover with emerging technician and technology and innovation. But really, it's just about making things look better, re-engineering the way we manufacture, and also just thinking about how we communicate. Innovation just combines everything we do in terms of process, AI, robotics, manufacturing, materials, science, sustainability. So, if I'm talking about innovation in print, just want to turn print into a very live and adaptive and an essential form of communication. So, yeah, just it's not just about being boring and having ink on paper. It's, printing is smart, it's connected, and we're really engineering communications for the future. So, yeah, just try and keep it simple. Just try and keep it energetic. Innovation is just about bringing the energy to your field in whichever way you see it.
Okay. So finally, for our listeners who are inspired by your story and want to follow your journey, what's the best place for them to connect with you and see the incredible work coming out of Coleman's printing?
Yeah, sure. They can head over to our webpage, which is www.colemanprint.com.au, or they can connect with me on LinkedIn, Magdalene Coleman at Coleman's Printing. I'm the only Magdalene Coleman at Coleman's Printing. And yeah, www.colemanprint.com.au. We're located in Darwin, in the Northern Territory of Australia, where it's always summer.
Wonderful, wonderful. Mags, it's been a really great talk with you, and I'm excited to have you on the show today.
Thank you. Thank you so much for your time. I really appreciate the opportunity. And I just hope you continue to do amazing things. And I hope that everybody in the world can put some innovation into what they're doing today and have a really great day.